Welcome. We are hours away from FP3 and qualifying today. So listen, today, during qualify kickback, listen, you have to be a subscriber or a viewer. You do not have to be a subscriber or a viewer to view Finale Lap, which is Sunday. But I do that because I give prizes away for the quali kickback trivia games. We have a good time in the live chat, ask questions. We debate all types of different drivers and team fans in there going back and forth. Plus, we're doing the watch along with qualifying. But right now, we are going to cover upgrades, technically updates. It's not an upgrade unless it works. Then it's an upgrade. Other than that, it's just a change, right? So let's get to covering those before we head into later on today at the Mexican GP to have some fun. So let's go ahead and cover these updates. So excuse me, let's see what these updates are. So first thing we're going to go ahead and look into are the actual upgrades. So first up on the list, we do not have Williams. I don't know why Williams always wants to come up first on my list. Like Williams always wants to come up first. So first up, we do have, we have Mercedes. All right. So we're going to look a little bit closer at this front wing. So we're going to look a little bit closer at this front wing later. But as it sits now, remember, indications will indicate the area. Other than that, pictures to talk about the upgrades. All right. Not limited to, but extended from. So the front wing is not an upgrade, but we're going to go into that later. So upgraded listed on the actual document is the floor edge of the Mercedes. And this has been done for revised floor edge, tasting an older specification floor. So I believe Nick DeVries was testing this floor at FP1, trying to get a little bit of data. And I pretty much think right now Mercedes is in, let's just collect data. Everything going forward is going to be like extended testing for them before testing officially starts going into 2023. They firmly know driver championship is sold up by Max at this point in time. Although we got the cost cap situation out there, we now know what the penalty is for Red Bull breaching the cost cap and the procedural breach. Some agree, some don't agree. I'm one of those ones that don't agree with the penalty, even when it comes to Aston Martin's penalty. I think Ross Brawn said they would have teeth. It didn't have teeth. And matter of fact, it had dentures, and the dentures were manufactured by using gummy bears. So with that being the case, we're going to go to the next team, and that is going to be Red Bull. Red Bull bring, as far as their update, they're going to do a reliability type update. It is revised geometry for the central top body part of the increased overflow cooling capacity. Pretty much that spine right down here that runs along here in this area. Teams are playing with the cooling packages for the motors, especially with the air being the way it is in Mexico. And you're going to see a lot of that play in also the rear wing is flat and longer. They're trying to utilize more air surface because the air is not as dense there. So the air is thinner. So they're having those issues as well. So not very much for Red Bull or Mercedes. The next upgrade that we're going to look into is AlphaTauri. And that upgrade is going to be, they have a list of 3 on there. So they're going to have the front corner. Basically, what they're going to be doing is trying to cool the brake calipers and brake ducts in that situation right there to increase that area and flow over that area. The cake and engine cover, they're going to do large exits, increase the mass flow through the radiators. Cooling, once again, cooling is going to be a big factor here. Next is the cooling louvers. All right, the cooling louver package for them as well. And that's also going to be for cooling. So you can see a lot of teams are going to be starting to work on these cooling attributes, being that temperatures could be a concern down there in Mexico. Next up, we got Aston Martin, and Aston Martin is going to do their rear corner. You're going to see a little flicks and little reflectors of the edge of the floor as outlined here, trying to control that flow, trying to improve that flow, especially going back to that rear tire area. Next, we will have Williams. Now, this is, again, as you see, messing around with the cooling louvers and the engine cooling package, and that's pretty much what they've done. Cooling louvers adding additional surface area or additional vents to increase the cooling capacity of that area. Okay, so next, and also don't forget Pirelli running their tire test here in Mexico. Prototype tires. I know I posted a picture in the community showing Lando and I believe Russell. There was another one in Hamilton, but I didn't get a chance to post that one. I probably won't post it at this point in time. Testing is over as far as that's concerned. We were supposed to have testing in Singapore, but weather did not cooperate. I believe that was Singapore or maybe the Japanese Grand Prix, but water didn't cooperate. Weather didn't cooperate. Either way, it went there. Next team we have, and this is another picture I'm talking about, the Williams. Realize that Williams did additionally to Mercedes and even McLaren had a bit slimmer down side pod, not as slim as the Mercedes, but they did. Since then, Williams has went on to modify their side pods and looks a bit more of the sliver compared to like the Ferrari. All right, the Ferrari or the Red Bull look. So that take note that Williams did abandon that, and Williams was one of those teams running a smaller side pod package, and then later went to what we would now call in this era more traditional side pods, more like the Ferrari, the Red Bull, and other teams. Even Haas being a white Ferrari is what they had got deemed, and being that Aston Martin is, they definitely copied the Red Bull side pod. They almost copied the entire package, which is why they got the term coined Green Bull. All right. And that car is running like Bull right now. All that they may have copied, they did not copy the performance of the Aston Martin. So next we're going to go into Alfa Romeo. And what they've done is the floor body, little flicks and changes here to improve that airflow. And probably, you know, everybody is trying to get a handle on this floor aside. Even Red Bull is still trying to stay ahead as far as their floor development, being that they got Adrian Newey. They've landed in a very good spot. I would even say Ferrari has landed in a good spot. Okay, so everybody else is trying to work on flow and airflow and ability. So Alfa Romeo, once again here, making changes and little bits to their floor. Also, the little bits that they did try, I forget which race that was, where they had a little bit different bits on there and they were very discolored, just kind of primer, not painted. I don't really think a lot of those made it into the plan. They might not have yielded the results they wanted. Next, they're going to get upgrades galore. Updates galore is going to go again to McLaren. This would be the third time that McLaren has been the team to bring the most updates to a GP. Okay, so McLaren is working very hard to try to improve their car going into next season. Like I said, they were doing well, and I was looking for a promising performance from McLaren being 2020. They did a good job 2021, but with the new regs, new car, they definitely took an impact, but they're working to get back to there. So they bring the most updates as far as right now. So they got the rear corner, of course. They're working on cooling those brake areas. They got the engine and coke area, added a cover, increasing cooling. So they're also working on cooling. And also you can see the cooling louvers right there, increasing, going further back, also working on cooling. So as you get it, the theme of this GP is, can we keep these cars from overheating, not only in the brake area, but also in the power unit area. So that is something that they're doing. And also, again, the cake exit gurney, also for airflow and trying to mask the cooling flow of that area. So yeah, cooling. Don't be too hot. You want to be hot on track, but you don't want to be hot in temperature. And that is what they're working on. Now let's get to our next segment, which is PU usage, which is something that we're going to talk about. And it's not stinky. It's not like PU. It's PU is usage, power units. So right now, as you see, we know Mercedes is over, but they're just over. As of right now, they haven't had anything that's going to cost them a grid penalty, although somebody has had a situation in practice. And I'm wondering if they're going to pop up. One team has already popped up, and we will cover that FIA document. Red Bull, Max Verstappen right there. Anything else, he's going to continue to get other penalties. Sergio is right there on the line, except for in the ICE. He's over in that area, but he's right there on the fence when it comes to TC, MGUH, and MGK, although we will not have to worry about the MGUH coming up soon, as the new developments and new era of racing will come when Audi and hopefully Porsche enter, and maybe even Andretti if it's possible. Ferrari, they're completely over. And as you see, Shaw already has 9 exhausts. The limit is 8 exhaust units. He has 9 right now. And remember, he wrecked the car in practice. And I'm pretty sure that wreck, I don't know if that Tech Pro might have saved that exhaust system. I do believe part of that exhaust probably is going to need to be replaced. So I'm waiting to see if he pops up on the list for getting a grid penalty, because he's already over on exhaust usage. Carlos is as well. Carlos is right there at the limit, but over on everything else. Daniel Ricciardo is good. He's on the fence. Lando's definitely over. He could take a penalty. Alpine team as a whole is over. They might end up taking penalties if they have anything else that goes wrong. AlphaTauri, boom, they're over. Guaranteed. Aston Martin and Williams has done pretty good at mitigating their circumstances and not going over. They're right there on the fence. If anything happens, they go over. They're definitely going to have a situation, and it'll be over at that point in time. Remember, Stroll was retired last time, so how much of this car might have needed to be place didn't lead to power unit or any of these areas. Now we get into Alfa Romeo. They definitely are over in more than one category. If anything happens to them, they'll also be taking grid penalties. And then we get down to Haas. Kevin Mag, K-Mag, definitely over. Mick Schumacher over in almost every area, and they're on the fence when it comes to exhaust limits at 7. As soon as they hit 8, at 8, they'll be right there on the fence. As soon as they hit that, anything else, they're going to be taking penalties. So let's get to who is taking penalties, Wolfpack. Well, right now, as it sits, we saw Haas have a failure. We saw a couple of teams have a failure, but we saw Haas have a failure. And it led to them needing to replace their ICE, which means K-Mag will be taking a 5 grid position penalty. So depending on where he qualifies, take 5 away from that, and that is where he would be sitting for the GP, given that nothing else takes place that might bump him up, meaning another team taking grid penalties and then worse than him and then kind of bumping him up from there if that does happen, okay? So K-Mag out of there. Now let's talk about the controversy going into this week other than the cost cap controversy was Mercedes' front wing, okay? We saw at COTA down below, the wing they had on display at COTA with the outwash hardware furniture on there, which is kind of controversial because we already know kind of what took place 2019, but going into here. But as it sits right now, above is the current view of the front wing, still with the changes of the flaps. Those, what would be called, I guess you could call them joints is how they were placed in there, but the joints also flowed air and directed air, and they chose to take those off to pretty much avoid any controversy that might arise with the FIA. I honestly don't think that Mercedes planned to honestly run these. Really, I think they came out with it in lieu of the whole cost cap situation. I think it was almost like a mini protest saying, you know what, if things are going to be able to let fly, and it seems like you're letting them fly, then we're going to go ahead and run this front wing and see how it goes. And then here we are in Mexican GP. It is off. You can even see the spots where they once existed and now they are no more. I think that Mercedes should have ran the wing, but maybe. And honestly, it's a cost cap situation too. Not a situation, but maybe usage, because I think they ran this front wing on track. Or maybe they did. If they run it on track, then it kind of goes towards the cost cap. If they didn't run it on track, then it's like a wash. So either way it goes, they're not running it now. So we won't be able to see if anything came of that. The only thing we know, Nick DeVries was trying the new variation of the floor, which is outlined on the updates list, and see how that goes. So Mercedes is definitely on track for trying to get as much information as they can, trying to extract as much data as they can going into 2023 so that the W14 comes out better than the W13. It came out sluggish, it came out slow, and it was very surprising that it came out that way. I think to a lot of us, even if you're not a Mercedes fan, I know you probably looked and said, that's odd, okay? So Mercedes is going to try to go into next year with as much information as they can. Red Bull is going to go into next year with a $7 million penalty in fine and 10% reduction in wind tunnel time, which is pretty much seeming like not even to just me, Wolfpack, and people are going to say that, but even professional F1 journalists. So go over there with your hate and all your crying to them as well, and say how you think that they're crying but you're crying. You know, it's like you're counterproductive crying. You're crying to cry about people you think are crying. You're just triple, double crying. But even Colin said, didn't think the penalty was enough. Brundle said he didn't think it was enough. He definitely didn't care how the process carried out. They've been penalized in a way that really doesn't affect them. Let's just say that. They're already ahead several seasons, I would think, at least a season or two on aerodynamics development with the ground effects with Adrian Newey. I don't agree with a couple of things that went in place, but we're going to talk about those things later on in another video, because I will do a Red Bull video diving a bit more into the actual document and the articles listed in that document. So, hey, be here moments from now. Literally, moments from now, we're going to be live for a qualifying watch. Come by, share your point of view, share your perspectives, have a good time in the chat. I will be there live, having a good time, talking and watching. And as you already know, I got the honey bun on deck, because I do get hungry when I watch qualifying. I got honey buns on deck, water on deck. Let's go. See you soon. Peace. Thanks for watching another episode of Wolfpack Performance. Don't forget to check out some of my other content on Formula One and motorsports topics. Like, share, subscribe, and we go live on the weekends. See you soon.